You just found yourself in a situation where you have to sell your home and you have to sell it in less than a year from when you actually bought the property. There's really two reasons that people might do this. Maybe they need to, maybe they want to, but nonetheless, there's a lot of things that you need to consider. Today's video is all about what happens when somebody needs to sell their home in under 1 year, the financial implications that they really need to be aware of. And we're gonna leave you at the end of the video with a little bit of a blueprint on what you can do to make sure you're the most successful if you find yourself in this situation. So if that all sounds good, let's get into it. Hey, it's Darren from the German Group, a real estate team in Surrey, BC. And one of the best ways that you can help us continue to make great content like the video you're about to watch is to subscribe to the channel. Not only does this let us know that we're doing a good job, but it also helps keep you abreast of all of the great content that we're posting on a regular basis to help you be a better home buyer or a better home seller. And in fact, if you're a home buyer or a home seller in the area that we service of Surrey, BC and surrounding neighborhoods, be sure to check the description below where you can book a time to speak directly with me and my team. All right, so it really happens for two reasons. Either people sell their home in under 1 year because they have to. This could be for a myriad of factors. Perhaps there was a job loss. Perhaps there's a separation of a family. Unfortunately, maybe there's a death in the family. Maybe someone's having mobility issues. Maybe you got a new job somewhere and need to relocate, or maybe you're one of the many people that are really struggling and having a tough time right now with mortgage rates and just financing in general. The other side, well, that's the want to sell. This could include property flippers. This could include people that have made a substantial amount of money on the property they bought in less than 1 year and want to cash out. Maybe they've made a large gain in value, or maybe they've renovated a property with the intention to flip it. Or maybe you're just an owner builder who's trying to avoid paying the GST. So you want to make sure you know the rules. I want to address the needs part of this first, because the reality is there's lots of great reasons that sometimes people need to sell a home. And there seems to be this belief out there in the world, not the world, and in BC and Canada, because this is a BC and Canada real estate channel, that if you sell your home in under 1 year, you have to pay capital gains tax on the sale of your principal residence. Now, you can see what principal residence is really defined as, and we will link to the Canadian government's website down below where you can actually get their definition of what that is. But this is not true. The fact that you may need to sell your home in under 1 year does not automatically classify you as a property flipper or someone who's simply in it just to gain the value of the home. Really, what you're going to need to do is you're going to have to be able to defend that, number one, it was your primary residence and you had full intention of either living there or you did live there. And this can be done through having various bills and mail and things just generally registered to the property. Now, knowing that, there's a lot of things that you might want to consider when you are selling your home in under 1 year. The first one being, of course, the market conditions. In fact, market conditions from today versus 1 year ago are completely different. And there has been a ton of activity, both good and bad, in that short time frame. So market conditions are something you're going to want to consider. You're going to want to consider any tax implications. So you're going to want to talk to your certified accountant about anything that might have to do with you selling your principal residence. And maybe it's not your principal residence. Maybe it was an income producing property. So you're definitely going to pay some taxes in that regard. So don't forget to do that piece. Even if you're selling for personal reasons, you also might want to consider if there's any improvements or renovations that you can do to the property that may help increase the value of it. I mean, to be fair, if you're going to sell it, why not sell it for the most amount that you absolutely can? And of course, circling back to the market conditions, perhaps the market conditions aren't ideal to sell the home right now. And maybe you consider renting it out instead. But again, there may be tax implications involved with that. So you want to make sure that you understand that by speaking to your accountant. Certainly though, that is an option that's available to you and something to consider. Introducing the BC Home Buyers Course, your ultimate guide to buying your first home with confidence and precision. With over 3 hours of comprehensive video content, you can learn at your own pace whenever and wherever you want. You can sign up by visiting bchomebuyers.90daysout.ca or checking the description in this video for more details. Well, what are some of the costs then involved with selling your home in the course of 1 year or less from the time that you purchased it? You, of course, would have already paid property transfer tax if you bought your home in British Columbia, unless you were exempt from that. You also may have paid GST on the home if it was a new construction property, like a new condo building, new townhouse, or even a new detached home. So you're already out a little bit of money in terms of the tax that you would have paid. You likely also have a mortgage on this property as well. So you're going to want to speak with your lending institution and figure out what any of your cancellation fees are in breaking a mortgage. And sometimes, unfortunately, those can be really significant. If you're unaware of what they might be, and even if you're someone new to buying a home and you want to understand a little bit more about that, I'm going to link this video in the description below, because you definitely need to understand about how mortgage penalties are calculated when you're getting your mortgage. This is in fact one of the ways that big banks really sting the home buyer, because they lure you in upfront with a low rate to get you in today, but they know that you're likely not going to complete the full term of your mortgage. Therefore, you need to know these penalty amounts. You're going to take on some real estate fees. In the area of Surrey, British Columbia, or British Columbia generally, real estate fees are 100% negotiable. However, there are common numbers that we see in the industry very quite often. In most of my travels, I see most home sellers offer out an amount of a fee for service that covers not only the selling agent, also maybe the listing agent, and the buying agent, which is the agent that typically represents the home buyer. And these amounts can range. They're 100% negotiable, and the most common numbers that we see are about 7% on the first $100,000 of the sale price and 2.5% to 3% on the balance. But again, they're negotiable, and you can find companies that charge less amounts, more amounts, anything like that in between. You're also going to pay some legal fees when you sell. So you could get these quotes in advance. You could speak to a legal professional, but I would normally budget, if you have a mortgage, anywhere between $2,000 to $2,500 just to get your name off the title of the property and clear up any of the things that your lawyer is going to need to do for you. You could, of course, have a notary do this for you as well, whatever you prefer. And oftentimes we find notaries to be a little less expensive than a lawyer. However, lawyers are lawyers. The notaries are somewhat like professional witnesses, whereas a lawyer can actually give you legal advice. So just something to consider. You're going to want to consider things about whether the house was actually occupied or not. This is going to play a role in a variety of ways. First of all, let's talk about provincial and federal taxes and even municipal taxes. The city of Vancouver, as an example, has an empty homes tax. The province of British Columbia has an empty homes tax. The federal government has an underused homes tax. So you're going to want to understand how that might affect your sale and, generally the fees you're going to pay. This can also lead to the conversation about capital gains and whether you're going to pay capital gains on the sale of your residence. Now, the real question is going to be, was it a primary or principal residence, or was it maybe not? To avoid capital gains, generally, they say that you need to occupy the home for 1 full year. And of course, there's exemptions to this, for undue hardship and whatnot. But this is something that just came in the 2022 Canadian federal budget. If you sell a home in less than 1 year for reasons that are outside of hardship, it can be seen as business income, meaning you have to put that towards your taxes at the end of the year for any gains that you acquire. Now, I'm not an accountant, but you can find this widely all over the internet, that if you make capital gains, as an example, let's say you made $50,000, you will likely be taxed at a rate of about 50% of those capital gains, leaving you only with $25,000 in profits. GST also might be applicable on the sale if you've done substantial renovations to the property. This is usually seen as a really high level of renovation, usually in and around the 90% mark. However, you're going to want to get some professional advice from your accountant on that to make sure you're aware if you have to pay any GST on the sale. You're also going to want to consider whether you have alternate income from something like maybe a basement suite. The reason for this is quite simple, is you've got part principal residence and you've got part business income coming from a property at that point. So your whole property might not be completely exempt from capital gains. Again, you're going to want to speak to your accountant about that, because you don't want to get surprised with any tax bills. I'm going to transition out of costs here a little bit, but I do want to talk about owner-built homes, because what tends to happen with a lot of new construction in the province is people will build homes for themselves and occupy those homes for a period of 1 year, which kind of helps them avoid paying the GST HST if they want to resell them in about a year. So that's perfectly okay. That's not a problem. But if you are someone rather that is trying to do that or considering doing that, just know that you need to stay in that home for 1 full year. Again, unless you have hardship, which you would need to apply to the government for to make sure it was okay to get out of it. Now that you know the costs associated with selling a house after only 1 year of living in it or less, there's 3 more things I want you to take away from this video to help put you in a really good position. The first one, of course, is the real estate professional you choose to help represent the sale of your home. Sometimes finding a realtor and picking the right one for you can feel like an immensely tedious job. That's why we've made the process easy, and we will leave a link below to the top questions that you want to ask a real estate professional before you hire them, just to make it as good of an experience as possible. There's lots out there. It can be ultra confusing. And in the end, you need to pick the person who is best for you. So make sure you check that out. Coming along with that idea also comes the strategy that real estate professional is going to employ, and you definitely want to be on board with that. Clearly, market conditions are important, and different strategies for selling a home work better in different marketplaces than others. So you're going to want to get somebody who has a really, really long track record of being incredibly successful selling homes, regardless of what the market is doing. And the last point I want to leave you with is pricing matters. The price that you paid for the home has zero reflection on what the value of the home is in today's market. Now, that's not to say that the market couldn't have stayed flat since you once bought it. It doesn't mean that it couldn't have gone up, and it also doesn't mean that it couldn't have gone down. So try to stay away from being hung up on what you paid for it if you really do truly need to sell it. The market conditions and characteristically similar home sales to what your home is offering is going to be incredibly impactful on what the actual sale price and value ultimately get for that home will be. Well, there you go. Now you know a little bit about selling a home in under 1 year of owning it. And really, I'm kind of curious, why would you sell a home for only living in it in under 1 year? What are some reasons that you can think of? And what are some things maybe that I missed in this video that anyone should consider if selling a home? Leave a comment below and let me know what you think. And again, I want to thank you for watching this video. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next video. Cheers.